everyone, my name is Shiroko Tatiana, and this is the podcast Mind Your Language. It's been a while since the last episode of the podcast, but we are back. And today I have a guest. His name is Tikhon. He is my old friend, and right now Tikhon is doing his PhD in Hungary. In today's episode, we're gonna talk about the academia, Tikhon's background, my attempts to get back into school, about teaching, of course, about the language itself, and more and more. Stay with us till the end of the episode, and don't forget to leave the comment and let us know how you feel about the episode, what was interesting, and maybe you have some follow-up questions. Please don't hesitate. Ask them in the comment section and we will answer them as soon as we can. Subscribe the channel because there will be more interesting content, not only the podcast but also the videos where I give some tips on how to learn, how to teach the languages and more. Now to the episode. I almost haven't slept today, so I'm gonna be slow maybe.
Why?
I don't know. Intrusive thoughts.
I see, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sometimes happens, yes.
Yes. Does it happen to you too?
No, but maybe before going to sleep, then yes. But
Uh,
then when I sleep, I no.
okay. Just it's also very hot here and my fan broke down yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have no aircon, so
Yeah, that's very bad. Yeah.
small talk
Yeah, yeah.
failed.
How hot is it?
Well, right now 30.
Oh my God. No, we don't. No, no, no. For us, now it's 22,
Mm,
but it's gonna be like the highest is 29 today.
mm.
Anyway.
Well, yeah,
It's
almost.
31 on Wednesday though.
Yeah. So we gonna have a little bit um better situation because when
Mm-hmm.
it's really hot, it's really tough,
Mm-hmm.
especially sitting inside with no fan, with no air conditioner.
Yeah.
So that's
I
impossible.
mean, I used to live in a flat that didn't have an air conditioner and it was it was the first flat that I came here and the flat so all Hungarian houses they build the way that they have an inner court. And my windows faced the inner court, and the inner court was very, very small. So when it was cold, it was very cold inside because there was no sun there.
Mm.
When it was hot and really warm, it was still would be very hot and warm, and it didn't have any air conditioning. So we would open all the windows, but it didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I basically have only one window, which is my balcony at the same
hmm
time. And it's really, really bad. I mean, when you live in a tiny apartment, it's, yeah, never do that.
Yes. We used to live in a studio flat and we would put something to cover the sunlight because the sunlight would come into the house to the flat and then it would be extremely extremely warm. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How are you doing?
I'm fine, fine. Thank you very much. I just passed the exam last week, so that's
Mm.
very good.
Yeah, what was the exam like?
So do you mean like what kind of exam that was or?
Yeah, yeah.
It was the middle of my PhD program. So after this exam, I'm an officially a candidate, a PhD candidate. I used to be a student, so I was just like a PhD student, and now I am the candidate. So for the exam, I had to prepare a presentation of my dissertation plan, and then I had two topics with 10 and 7 topics respectively. And I had to just it was the classic exam. I would be given a number and then I would talk about the topic. But they would ask me a lot of questions and that's it. So that was the exam. It was actually very, very easy.
Hmm.
I was preparing for like a week and I was stressing out and I was like, oh, what are they gonna say? Should I prepare more? Should I do this? Should I do that? But then at the end, it was very, very easy.
Hmm. And what
Yeah.
happens if you fail the exam?
Uh, you drop out. You just finish your program and that's it.
Hmm. No second chances.
No, so there was it was a a high stakes exam. So I had to, put a lot of thought in it.
Okay, got it. So, and what is your thing? I mean, your dissertation, what is it about?
So the dissertation is about how art labels in museums and their difficulty influence people's emotions and people's reading performance. So I measure how people read and what people feel in museums. And there's like a thing, it's called dependable variable. So, oh, sorry, that's independable variable because then it doesn't change. So, and I just check whether if the text is difficult, will people read slower and will people feel bad emotions, basically. Or if the text is easier, then the people would read faster and then feel happier. So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
I mean, if reading makes people feel happier, it's great.
Yeah.
Do you see this in your students? Does reading make them feel happier?
Oh no. I have a couple of students and they don't really like reading because I think one of them likes speaking and I also do like speaking. I don't like reading at all. And for example, for the PhD, for the master's program, I had to read a lot and I have to force myself to read a lot. And this is something that I don't like. I like having classes. I don't like preparing for classes, but I like having classes. But then I have to read before. And another student is very keen on writing. So I don't have any students who like reading.
Hmm.
So,
Do you think it's a bad thing in terms of the language learning? Because a lot of vocabulary that we naturally acquire comes from the reading, and it's one of the best ways to expand your vocabulary.
that's who.
Some smart
Because
people.
I would say that listening is a very nice tool to get a lot of vocabulary, but I think it depends on your level. Because if, for example, for me, if I hear a word, it's very easy to catch it, and then I would use it, or just gonna, die in a passive vocabulary. But anyway, I would still recognize the word, but just because I have a high level. But then for students who start, who like A1, A2, according to the CFR framework, then that, of course, I think reading is very good. It just depends on how much reading they have to do, how they, perceive reading, how they, I don't know, whether they have any difficulties reading in their native tongue or any other variable. So it depends.
Yeah, but don't you find it quite problematic that people read less these days? I mean, in even in their native languages.
Um, no, yeah, I don't see it as a problem. So it's not a problematic topic. Okay, you don't read less, then so what? So it doesn't kind of interfere with any other, like other people's lives. So that's
Yeah.
okay.
But you know what I noticed about some of my students?
Mm.
I think that a lot of people now experience the lack of concentration because of
Yeah.
social media and this fast content. And they can't really concentrate on some tasks that require their attention for a long period of time.
Hmm.
I think that, but at the same time, some of these students love reading, not in English, but in Russian,
Mm-hmm.
for example. And
Mm-hmm.
it's quite controversial, like how it works. Maybe it's not connected at all, but just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what do you think?
Um, I have a personal example. I read so recently I read Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, and it was amazing. It was one of the best books I've read in my life. And the problem was that I understood 90% of that because the vocabulary is very difficult. But I was so proud that I read Russian literature in Russian. And when I was reading it, I couldn't understand some of the phrases, some of the words, even some of the passages because the words were not familiar. And I realized that I like reading in Russian, but I like reading Russian literature in Russian because I quite see it as a pointless thing to read books that were written in English, and then I know English, so I can read it in the origin. So I don't need to check the translation. So yeah, it might affect people who like read in their native tongue. So I have a student and she likes reading a lot. She reads in Russian, but she doesn't read in English. Because I think it's very frustrating because when you open a book and then every second word is a new word. It's the same for me. For example, when I try to read in German, it's the same. So every third, every fourth word is a new word, and I'm just losing. I don't have this much time to check every word in the dictionary in like in a Google Translator. So that's why I'm like, well, I'm not reading in German.
Yeah, I can relate because this is what happens to me when it comes to French.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's all about the right choice of the book. Because if you choose something not modern, probably, yeah, you're gonna come across a
Mm,
lot of words and maybe
yes.
some collocations that you don't know or can't even guess in the
Mm-hmm.
context. Because I read a book, it was written after COVID because the COVID was mentioned in the book
Mm-hmm.
in French. And it's like a story of a road trip. We are going to the family for Christmas, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of dialogues and some slang words, even. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I get it. Even if I don't know some of the words, I can still guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think it comes with high level of language. So, for example, when you get a certain level, then you can guess the word from the context. When you are like A1, A2, that is not possible that you can get the word meaning from the context. Although, sometimes that happens when people learn multiple languages, it's very easy for them to catch a new words from another language because it's understandable. Because, for example, from like the Indo-European branch of languages, it's very easy. So, for example, Italian, French, Spanish, they would be they would share some of the roots, and then you would understand what the words mean. But for example, in German, that doesn't work. Or for example, in Hungarian, because I also used to learn Hungarian, the language is um, so it's like it's cut from other languages around, and it's the only country that speaks its language. And their motivation for the words is I don't know. So I don't know the roots, and I don't know how to remember the words. That was very easy. Sorry, that was very hard. And when you learn multiple languages that belong to the same group, it's very easy to understand the words. Because, for example, I sometimes understand Italian even though I haven't learned it. And I'm like, oh, that's from late Latin. I just learned Latin at the like in university, so that's why I understand something. But yeah, it's very difficult when you read and then a lot of unknown words and you're like, oh, I don't like it. It's very upsetting.
Yeah. So, and I'm quite a fan of listening myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I love teaching listening as well. And I think when it comes to listening, you can still get some information from the voices and the intonations and the whole, I don't know, audio or visual information that you get with the listening part.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess here I would agree that maybe listening sometimes is easier because you don't need to make more efforts. You just try to perceive
Mm-hmm.
whatever you hear.
There is actually a very nice theory behind that. It's called multimodal interaction analysis. So this is something that I would like to incorporate in my research. So that's a thing where we basically construct the identity and the discourse based on the bodily movement. So how you move, how even the performance of your eyes when you read, when you fixate longer on something or you skip something, it also contributes to the overall meaning creation, let's say, and you can actually understand what happens without hearing the words. And we watched a video recently, like in a class, and the teacher, she showed us a video where a teacher would explain the task to students. And I don't remember, was it like a comparative study or not? But the thing was that she was explaining something, and she was like, "You have to write on the piece of paper," and she was doing those, movements with their hand, with her hands, and it was very easy to understand what she meant, even though like the students were A2, A1 level. So
Yeah,
that's very good.
that what fascinates me when it comes to these group classes. For example, I have a student, she now lives
Hmm.
in Austria, and
Hmm.
she had to go to these German classes where she doesn't know who the students are. Like, they're all immigrants, they all come from
Hmm.
different cultures, backgrounds, languages, and
Hmm.
the only language that is going to be used is German when
Hmm.
everybody is like the very beginner in the group.
Hmm.
And this is how usually they teach the language in the country. And
Hmm.
it always like fascinates me how they do that,
Hmm.
teachers, because it's extremely hard.
Yeah, it is. But I think, um, yeah, I believe in repetition. So if you repeat one word a lot of times, then on the 10th time, people will understand. And if like during the first 3 to 5 times you would show it and then you would stop showing it, but then just saying it, then they will still understand.
Yeah, definitely. Well, at least at the beginner levels, but I think later on it gets a little more complicated because some students they expect different things from you as a teacher as well.
Yeah. How do you teach, by the way? Do you use like a lot of movements? Do you use a lot of body positions when you're
I just
teaching?
can't control my body when I explain something.
Okay.
I start to move, I
Yeah,
start
yeah,
to
yeah, I like that.
like use my hands, yeah, and gestures. But yeah, I mean, whatever I can show, I try to do that. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
just a picture or I try to, I don't know, just show something with my hands or my face if it's an emotional thing,
Mm-hmm.
for example. But like not every word can be described this way and can be
Mm-hmm.
explained this way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would act. So if there is like a situation or an emotion, I would act. But um, it gets progressively worse when the notion becomes abstract. So when I have like, for example, the word concentration, it might mean like when I show it, it might mean an emotion, or it might mean a concentration process or something else, or even the word abstract. So you can't show the word abstract. That's why I think that our movements become less precise. So if you would like to show like a letter, oh, so I have a letter, that's something like we can understand. But then when you describe something abstract, you do abstract. So you do this. And I often use those gestures while I talk. I also, for example, when I describe the tense, past, present, and future, I always say that for me, past is there, present is here, and then future is there. Which is actually very easy because in the past, the auxiliary verb is just one, it's did. If we talk about like the simple matrix, then here we have two shoulders. That's what we have do and does, and then we have will, which is just one. And you also talk about the cultural dependencies of this, because for example, in Australian culture, they do not perceive future in front of them; they have it behind because they can't see it. And I also talk about this. So and yeah, so in terms of movements, I think I would explain this with the movements, and I would explain something that I can actually show with my hands. If it's more abstract, then I would incorporate more explanation, or I would just translate. I was very hesitant to use Russian when I taught. I was like, I would use just English when I teach, and but then I realized it's not working. And I was like, they do not have anything to connect the English words to. And I was like, okay, so let's try and use Russian. And now I think it's more effective than just using English.
Yeah. And for some students, it just works this way, and they can't spend a lot of time on thinking or trying to find some equivalents or trying to connect, as you said, like this words to what they have already learned before. And yeah, it's just easier, it's faster, it's more effective to give a translation. And I was also very hesitant because I was like, oh no, I should not use Russian at my
Mm-hmm.
classes. It's lame. But then I think it depends on the student because some of them are really ready to avoid Russian by like all means, and
Mm-hmm.
they do that and they are used to it. And I just appreciate their effort as well. But some students, they need Russian, and I think it just
Yeah,
depends.
especially when students ask for a vocabulary unit that is very rare. And then you would never use it in English, and you would never use it even in Russian. But then, okay, let's check what that means. So sometimes it is very frustrating when they need some words that you've never thought about, or you've never used it in your life. Or sometimes, if we compare, like we do, like some comparative linguistics, and we talk about swear words. This is also very difficult because my students are very interested in how to say this or that swear word or phrase, which is very explicit in Russian. But in English, it's not that explicit, and then you would have to come up with something that would still be closer to the emotional coloring, but it is still something different. And this is where I need to talk in Russian. This is where we need to, understand what that is, how you can paraphrase it, make it easier for you to maybe translate it in English. So yeah, that's why actually native language is very useful when you teach a foreign one.
Yeah, I would agree. And here, the idea of chunks helps a lot uh,
Mm.
to me because I introduced this concept to my students and they really got it. Even like
Hmm.
all the levels, they got it. Like, okay, we have these chunks, these fixed collocations. We cannot translate them literally
Mm.
word by word. So we just have to accept and just use them the way they are. And
Yeah.
it sometimes really helps when we just come across a phrase and we can't translate it, they can't get it. And okay, guys, it's just a chunk. So just use it as it is. The whole thing. You can't
Hmm. Hmm.
let
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, but Another thing is that sometimes students are very keen on understanding why, and then they would ask why that works the way it works, and then you would explain. And then I understand that sometimes it's inevitable to go into very much detail, and then it becomes very complicated, and then the student would not understand, and then the student would not remember the phrase, for example. This is one of the things that I'm thinking about how I can, work with that, how I can work it around, because for me, it's sometimes very challenging to describe it in very simple terms.
Hmm. Would you use ChatGPT for that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's a very actually very good tool for lessons and for teaching. When I have a doubt, then I would go and check with the ChatGPT. But I don't actually need it because I know a little bit of Latin and I know the connection with German language and I know the connections around Europe in terms of languages. So when they ask me a question, I know how that works. So I would explain it because I understand. It's a rare case that I don't understand something or I don't remember something, so I would go and check because I think most of the questions I can answer it from my head.
Yeah.
Do
And
you Google? Do you use ChatGPT?
no, because it requires VPN,
I
and
see.
I
Okay.
cannot do that during my classes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not my habit,
Mm-hmm.
Just I would also just try to come up with some examples off the top of my head. And okay, maybe I would use a dictionary because I always have it opened, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe sometimes translate things because I can just forget what the Russian equivalent is.
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sometimes it's very difficult because even though the word is very, very easy, it's like it's a minuscule little thing that you'll use it every day. But then when people ask you, "Oh, what does this word mean?" and you're like, "Oh, wait, it's this, what do you think?" And then yeah, so sometimes, and the problem here for me is even though my students know that I'm a knowledgeable person and I know English and I have a very high level, I still think, oh, they're gonna think that I don't know it. And I'm like, why do I think so? Why do I think that they would like, punish me or shame me? Because I know like 99 words, but I don't know one. And I think that it's not good not to know this one.
Yeah. But do you think you like overcame this feeling or you still can experience it sometimes?
Oh yeah, actually, it was a very nice realization when I came here to the university, and then we started having classes, and even during my master's degree, I understood that it's okay not to know words, not to, I mean, I know all grammar. I came up with the topic that I didn't know that you can use uh, indefinite articles with plurals. And that was a new thing for me, even though like I've been learning English for more than 10 years. So and and then I realized that, oh, I don't know this word, but it's okay. So I can say that I don't know this word because, like, I know everyone knows that we all have very high level of English. That's why it's not something that we should be ashamed of if we don't know the words. And it was a situation in a class when I was reading a handout and I got the word that I don't know. And I said, is this the word that I don't know, or is this a typo? And she said that's the new word. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you very much. So it was very easy. I didn't feel ashamed because I didn't know this word, because I'm like, I'm a PhD student, but still I don't know some of the words, and that's okay. And this realization helped me understand that that's okay. So if you don't know any words, and then reading Russian literature in Russian and not understanding 10% of it, I was like, that is still okay. So I think my level of Russian and my level of English is the same because the percentage of not understanding is quite similar. So, and I'm happy to think this way.
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to say. Like, we don't feel ashamed when we don't know something in Russian, and we just
Yes, yes.
easily say, okay, what does it mean? Or we just Google what it means, and we don't feel ashamed.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
feel like something is wrong with us. But when it comes to your professional area, like the subject that you're supposed to know 200%, of course, it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
frustrating.
But there are core theories that we need to understand, but there are like additional theories that we might have seen or we might have read about, but it's not obligatory for us to know everything. So it's a very easy thing that the more I learn, the more I understand that I don't know a lot of things. So, and when I, for example, do my research, I'm like, oh, so I'm very anxious. Every time I'm very anxious to miss something. So, because there is so much literature in the world and there is so much literature on my topic. And then when I start doing the research, I'm afraid that when I finish, someone has already written this research or someone has already published something that was proving my point that I was trying to do this. But there are certain things that we can do as researchers, as PhD students to avoid those things, or when the thing is unavoidable, how to deal with it. So those are like there are some little tools that we can use in the academia. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you open the website with the articles, for example, I was doing my some kind of personal research on the listening, and I was just
Hmm.
looking for some articles, some researches on this topic, and almost every article repeats itself in a way, because every person quotes some major research
Hmm.
like the main one, and they just draw their personal conclusions out of it. And I mean, I think when it comes to this academic research stuff, you can't invent something completely new. I mean,
Um, the thing is that you cannot invent something new from nothing. So, for example, in my research, I came up with a framework that, well, it didn't exist before I came up with it. So that's a new framework, and that's my contribution to the theoretical field of the research. And so, for example, people that would write the papers after me, they can base their papers on my framework that I use. But my framework is based on two frameworks that are not connected. So I'm using one which is highly theoretical, let's say, and one which is highly textual. Let's talk about that. So I'm talking about cohesion coherence. And another one is based on multimodal communication, which is not the object of the first theory. So when I build one framework based on two different approaches, but I, put them together, and then it creates this contribution to the theoretical, to the academic field. And yeah, what was the question?
it was just
Ah,
my
like a thought. Okay,
train
okay.
of thought. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. By the way, speaking of the
Hmm.
experience in the academia and
Hmm.
Hungarian universities, can
Hmm.
you share about that? Like, are you happy with how it works? So you've got the experience in the Russian university and
Hmm.
here. So what the main differences are, you would say?
Russian university is a mess. So that is the first thing. I'm not saying that Russian universities are bad. No, that's a different point. So thanks to my Russian university, I could get into a European MA program and then proceed further with a PhD. But I think the teaching standards in terms of respect, in terms of, treating students is different. So when you are in a Russian university, you are no one. Oh, you came here, or you should never come here, and something like that. And theoretically, it's not very demanding. So I had a couple of classes that were very demanding, like semiotics or something. I don't really remember. That was very theoretically demanding subject, and I had to work a lot to pass it. Um, but yeah, there is no syllabus. In Russian university, there are no syllabi, and like you don't have you don't have any plan. So for example, when you start a subject and then you don't know what's going to happen next week. Eh. And when I came here, I'm a very structured person and I love tables, structuring everything. So when I came here and they were like, okay, this is the syllabus for this course, and then would give a handout, and the whole handout would be a table with every week, with the date, with the topic, with the readings for this week, and with the homework if there is one. And I was like, oh, you do it here? Wow. So I knew what's going to happen throughout the whole semester. That's first. And when I miss a class, I know what they did, which was very, very easy. That's one thing. Another thing is the level of respect that I already talked about. That, for example, it's different on masters and PhD because PhD level, they treat you as equals because we are like colleagues now, even though like they've been in the industry for more than 20 years, they are the leading people in the industry in their fields, but they would still treat you as equals. So they would do research with you, they would write papers with you, they would provide feedback for you. They would not ask for the feedback though, but because I don't think that we have enough experience for that. And then during the master's degree, I had the same thing. So everyone was treated equally, everyone was treated with respect. No one would say something like, oh, you don't belong here. Because I think in Russian universities, that's a very common thing when people say, you don't belong here. Why did you come here? You should better go. That's not a rare case, unfortunately. And here it's very, very respectful. Let me think of something else. The level of education is actually higher because we use a lot of theories, especially at the English language program. We have English theories, so it's English and American theories basically. Sometimes we use theories from Europe. We of course used theories from Hungary. For example, the theory of flow. You might know flow, the state when you, like, for example, when you engage in an activity and then you can't see the time. So
Okay.
like, so you think, oh, so I'm going to just spend 15 minutes on this task, and then you spend 1 hour, but you don't notice it. So
Mm.
that's the state of flow. And the
I
person
didn't
who,
know there is the theory behind this.
yes, yes, yes. So, and the person who came up with this theory is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he is Hungarian. So we learned this theory as well. Yeah, so it's theoretically very packed. Oh, and another thing, it's very reading related. So when I came here during the first week, I read 100 pages, A4, and of research papers. My brain just blew up because it's here, it's heavily reading based. So you read a lot of theories, you read a lot of research, you read a lot of papers, and then you come and synthesize them.
I'm just thinking that what you've said before, like you don't like reading.
I don't like reading. Yeah, that's
You
the
have to
problem.
read a lot.
Yes. So, yeah. That's why it's very challenging for me. It was very challenging in the very beginning, but now I'm like, I open the research. It depends because there are theoretical and empirical research papers. So if the paper is theoretical, then unfortunately you would more likely to read the whole thing because every page counts because it's theory. In the empirical research, you don't have to read the whole paper because you can just read the abstract, the introduction, and then the conclusion, or the not the conclusion, but the discussion part. Discussion part is where the person introduces the results and then discusses them, and then they would come to the conclusion. So I would read like the intro, discussion, results, and discussion. Empirical research is also divided into two. There are not two, but several. So, like qualitative research, when people conduct interviews or they analyze texts and come up with topics for those texts, stuff like that. And there is quantitative research that I do. This is advanced statistics. So, I use different statistical analyses to analyze the data set. And then there are mixed method case studies, like, well, let's say three: qualitative, quantitative, mixed method. And depending on the paradigm of the research, you would read certain parts. So if you're very interested and you know that for your research you need to understand how to create the interview in this field, in this specific field of research, then you would of course read a methodological section. But then if you don't really need the methodological section, then you can go on and check the discussion part. That's very good with empirical research because it's very structured and there is a special so it's like a special genre, and genre is basically a form of text with a specific goal. And so we have specific genre for writing those texts, argumentative texts. So there are different types of texts, and this one, for example, is argumentative. And then argumentative texts, they fit into the framework of this genre. And then you know how that works. You just open the method section. Because you know how the genre works, what kind of form you have in this genre. Yeah, so that's another part that I can think of that is very heavily reading based. Mm, yeah, and the thing is that for example you read and then you can answer comprehension questions for the class before the class, and then you come to the class, you have discussion, and it's not, oh, another thing, maybe I'm just thinking whether that was with one professor or with several of them, but there is never is there the front. I don't know, that's a methodology, like teaching methodology thing that I'm not interested in. It's like a front, when the teacher asks students and then the students work together. Those are two different types of communications in the classroom. And there is no teacher-student communication during the class. So when we check our homework, we check it with each other. So there is no such a thing when the teacher says, "Okay, so you tell me how that works." So it's not like that. So you don't go one by one and check everything. You check it with each other, and then you can discuss it with the teacher, with the professor. So that's another thing it was. Um, there's less stress in it. I remember because even like during the classes in Russia, I was very anxious and stressed, even though I wouldn't show it, and because I have communicative skills to do that. But I understand how it might be a little bit nerve-wracking when you have to answer a question and there is this teacher and you don't understand really how the teacher works, the way the teacher works. And here I just came and they're like, okay, let's discuss it here with each other. And you discuss it and you understand that this person is also very anxious. And if we talk to each other and you're like, oh yeah, so I don't actually, I'm not sure in this one. And they would be like, yeah, I'm not sure either. Yeah, then you would ask the professor. And the professor, we have a very nice professor, and she would be like, oh yeah, this is a very complicated topic. Let's talk about it. So, and it was all discussion based, and it was all very mild and very open, and it was very respectful. So when you give a presentation, she would say something, and the presentation was amazing. The handout was great. How you gave how you presented the information was amazing as well. Thank you very much. I just have a couple of comments here. So for example, here after the et al, you have to put the full stop and then the comma, or for example, like in the references, you have to do this or that. And also you mentioned this. I don't think it works this way. Let's see how that works in a different situation. But the rest is very amazing. Thank you very much. That's a five. So, and this was just,
A sandwich.
yeah. And it was it was during the first semester. I had this professor, and when I finished, I wrote her a letter saying that thank you very much for the class. This is actually, I now understand why I chose this university. I understand why I chose to come here. And I understand why I do that because of your class, because of how you teach, and because of your approach. And the thing is that you become more open here because in Russia, everyone is like, yeah, you don't smile, you don't have to smile. You can't smile. If you smile, something is wrong with you. But here is a different situation. So you finish the class and you understand, so you are full of this gratitude that you would like to share. So I for example had this thing when I had to share my gratitude for the professor.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Not the contribution to the stereotypes that Russian people don't smile.
Um,
But I
I
mean,
mean,
I get it. I get it. Yeah. I mean, everybody is still more reserved than anywhere else, I think.
um, yeah, because the level of stability, you never know when you wake up next day, it's 30 degrees. You wake up next day, it's 10. So
Yeah,
there's
to
nothing
say
to
the
laugh
least.
about.
Like the weather is the least of the problem.
Yeah.
No. But are you doing your PhD in the same university? Uh,
Yeah.
where you did your master's?
Yes.
You chose it just because you loved the approach of it, the
So
professors.
when I finished my master's degree, I finished with distinction, with merit, and I was very excited to continue. I was very excited to go to the UK and to get a PhD there. But unfortunately, this opportunity closed with some circumstances that we couldn't control. And I decided that I would apply for the same scholarship for the PhD program. I applied, I got rejected first, but then the professors wrote a letter to like a higher level educational institution, and then they approved me and another Russian student because, as far as we know, no Russian students were admitted this year. And
Yeah.
we
You
were
talk about
among,
this stipendium, Hungarian something.
yeah. That, yeah, if you pronounce it like in a English way, that's stipendium Hungaricum. Yeah. But I think in it's Latin, so still. Um, and so we got admitted among a very little group of Russian students. So, and I continued here. And I actually got very disappointed in the program because the first year was about everything that we already knew. And the first year was all about what we studied at the MA level. The argument for that was that we need to put everyone on the same level so we can proceed further. So, and students who came not from the MA level, but from other countries and from sometimes a big pause in their education, then we would be on the same level. The second year was a little bit more interesting. So during the first semester, we had to come up with the dissertation plan. It was a dissertation proposal for around 40 pages. And yeah, it was a very long document. I wrote around 13,000 words, and in 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
Uh, it was extensive research before still, but then the write-up was like about, yeah, I think 3 weeks. And now the papers that are like 2,000, I'm like, 2,000 words? Come on. That's 3 days of work. And yeah, during the first semester, we worked on that, on the proposal, on the title, because we had to come up with that. And now the title of the dissertation is actually registered in the document, so I cannot change it. I can change some of the aspects if they do not change the work drastically. I can change it if it's a minor change. Like, for example, statistical analysis. I can change the statistical analysis if I want. And we gave the presentation in the end of the first semester. We finished with that. So the paper went through a couple of reviews, and then it was accepted finally. And then the second semester this year was one of the best, I think, because we had innovative research methodologies course where I learned a lot of methodological tools that I can use in my research, but it was a little bit weird that we have this in the last semester. And because if it was in the first semester, then I would have taken some of the approaches that we did this semester. But unfortunately, I cannot use it because it's already in my dissertation proposal, and those are different things. Um, yeah, and also, for example, psycholinguistics. I didn't do psycholinguistics because it was very relevant for me. The course was not structured around my needs, and sometimes it is very difficult to build a PhD program because all people in my group, we do different research fields. So I do multimodal discourse analysis. People do case studies on native population in Colombia. So some people do ADHD student studies. Some people do, wait, let me remember, something skills, transferable skills. Uh, yeah, what else? Some people do brain research. So we all in different fields. And that's the problem because you cannot tailor a course that would suit all of the needs, except for maybe this methodological tools and innovative strategies. Yeah. And that was a disappointing part for me. But I really enjoyed classes. I really enjoyed coming to classes. That's one of my favorite parts of the studying. And yeah, coming to classes, talking, not preparing though. I don't like the preparation for the class. Yeah. And now we will have 2 years to finish the dissertation.
Two
Uh,
years.
yeah, which is basically 1.5 year
Mm.
because we will have to submit the dissertation for the in-house defense in December 2027. So which makes it 1.5 years. And during this time, I will have to publish 3 papers, participate in a conference. I can teach, but I already taught for 2 semesters, so I don't.
At the uni.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So, and I don't really think that I want.
What did you teach?
I taught academic skills.
Mm.
So there was like academic skills, academic writing, how to write academic papers, how to correctly cite people in the work and stuff like that.
Mm.
So this in Russian realities we have this ghost thing where you have to write down the citations, and when you cite someone, you would go and write like reference list, and then you would reference every work you cited. For everyone, it's very, very difficult and it's frustrating. But for me, it's very easy because I taught this class and it's structuring. So there are certain rules that I have to abide by, and that's okay. And that's a very easy situation for me here.
Okay. But why
Yeah.
wouldn't you like to teach?
because of the administrative issue. So I like the process of teaching, but again, I had to prepare for the classes a lot. You know, it's handouts. I have to print the handouts in the office, and then I have to think about coming very early. So for me, class that starts at 8:30 is very early. And I'm a night person, and I would write in the night, but then I would wake up very late, and then I would prepare it beforehand, like one day prior, and then I would have the class at 8:30, and I would come up and be like, okay, let's do it. So it wasn't very, fascinating. And then
Okay.
we had some administrative issues that some of the professors that were responsible for the exam in the topic, in the subject that I was teaching. They are just not very good project managers, and sometimes that interferes. So teaching in university is not just, being a professor or something.
Mm.
It's this thing when you still have to deal with administrative issues.
And that is not fancy at all.
It is not, yeah.
But I was always wondering, like, how do professors come up with the program? Is it like totally on, like, up to you, or you have some criteria or standards you have to abide?
Um, there are some things that we need to teach the students. So there are certain criteria that you have to base your syllabus on, the curriculum, and actually being the first year student, the first year teacher, let's say, I had some materials to prepare with. So the professors that already taught this course, they shared the materials, and I just used those materials. Because one of the mottos for this PhD program was, if I can do this easier, then let's do it easier. If I can find an easier way, let's do it an easier way. That's why I, for example, use ChatGPT a lot, because it helps brainstorm ideas. It helps, when you don't have time, you can read a PDF very fast with ChatGPT. And I just came up with the criteria that the students have to fulfill, and they would still, like, they would need to pass certain tests. They would need to pass certain, I don't know, measurement instruments, and then in the end, it was a big test for the whole first year students, for the whole group of first year students.
Mm.
And I had to help administer this test. We had more than 100 students in the class. It was like a big lecture auditorium. And we had more than 100 students, and that was just one class. So we had several classes for just one test going simultaneously in different locations. And I was helping administer one of the classes. So in this class, they had to write one paragraph, just one paragraph, and based on um, a small text. So that semester when I had to teach, I taught them how to analyze the text to find the key ideas in it. So, and then they would have to write a paragraph based on those key ideas. So basically one sentence, one idea.
Okay. So it's like you've got some freedom, like
Yeah.
on
No
teach.
one is looking at me when I teach. No one is looking at my approach. So I taught as if they were my friends and not colleagues, but we were on the same level. So it was very easy because and I was sharing my thoughts and I was sharing my feelings because I was like, I remember myself being like 17, 18 and yeah, starting new thing as university and maybe sometimes realizing that it's not yours. That is very difficult. Thankfully, I didn't have that in the very beginning, but then I can see some people came to this program and they understand that it's not theirs. And I would calm them down saying that that's very good that you find it out this early and not in the end. So just if it's okay, you can change it. Everything is okay. So you're not gonna it's not gonna change your life drastically. It's gonna be okay if you change it now. Or for example, I would say to them, if you fail, that's still okay. It's not that you have to, excel in everything in your life. And university is not about teaching and studying. It's also about socializing, about finding people, about finding community, and it's not about being excellent in your academic, degree. So, and I had a student that was like, yeah, so your final grade for this course is satisfactory. Are you okay with that? And she would be like, yeah, sure, that's great. So, and that was very good. Because here actually a two is actually a very good grade, so you can pass with a two. So if you get two, you still pass. Nothing
Mhm.
changes. Even the scholarship doesn't change.
Okay.
For the stipendium Hungary comes. For the ordinary people, yeah, this scholarship changes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Still like the part of the elite group.
Yeah. So it's the stipendium Hungaricum holders.
Yeah. So, and I guess they just completely shut it down for Russian students.
No, 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 no. You can still participate in this program, but you have to be a student.
Like
Uh,
already study.
yeah. For example, to apply for the bachelor degree, you have to be a bachelor student in Russian.
This is how it works.
Hmm.
Okay.
I don't know how that works when you get so how that works in your university because here bachelor degree is for 3 years and you
Mm,
cannot start your degree in Russia, have a year, then have 3 years here and then go back and have 4 years more. I don't know.
yeah.
Or you transfer the credits somehow. I don't know.
Okay. That's weird. And what's your plan after the dissertation?
Oh, oh, that's a very nice question because I haven't thought about it because I just passed the exam and I'm just chilling. And I have so many plans before I submit the dissertation, so I didn't even think about afterlife.
Okay. But are you like interested in
Academia.
yeah.
It was very, very difficult decision for me because I understand that there is no, and it is still a very difficult decision whether I would like to stay in the academia or not, because there is no money in it. Unfortunately, in Hungary, professors are paid very little. And especially, starting professors, even though I, for example, have 4 years experience of people management and process management as an HR and project manager, I don't like they would not look at that when I apply for the job here, for example, because they would just look at my academic list and then I would be paid very little money. And I'm not ready for it now. So that's one of the major things that I'm thinking about. And since I was a little bit disappointed in the program in the very beginning, I thought maybe I would just finish the PhD and then start something else because I was always, when I talk to my parents, I would say something like, I don't know why I do this. Like, what's the point in it? And there is a very wise thing that I study until, so I'm gonna be 27 when I finish, 28 actually. And studying until 28 is very good for the brain. So the more I study, the I don't know, the easier for me it is to live, because when I get to 30 and when I get to 40, I will still be with clear mind, I hope.
What are you talking about? I am 30.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but you constantly
Still clear in
study.
mind, Tikhon.
No, no, no. I mean, I'm 26. I'm gonna be 27 in the end of summer. So it's not that big of a difference here. And I talk about, growing further and then having your brain work. Because for some people, some people just finish their bachelor degree and they started working. I'm not saying that their brain doesn't work. No, I'm saying that progressively it becomes harder and harder to gain new concepts, to understand new concepts, or to, operate those concepts. And I think that maybe when I have this program, it might help me, to understand the new concepts easier or learn new languages easier. It's just because my brain is always in this state of thinking.
Yeah. I mean, lifelong learning, this is the
Yes, yes, yes.
I think this is kind of a side effect of our work because, as you've
Mm-hmm.
already said, like the more I know, the more I understand that I don't know a lot
Yeah.
of things. And this is what happens to a lot of teachers, I think. Teachers who are actually trying and looking for the answers and expanding their horizons and are not putting themselves in the box with like one textbook or whatever
Yeah.
approach, for example,
Mm-hmm.
methodology. And yeah. And for me personally, it's also really important. That's why I want to continue. Like, I want to get my master's if I
Mm-hmm.
can. Yeah, because I'm just really curious. I'm a curious person, and I just want to. Yeah, I like studying. This is the
You
thing.
can you can call yourself a teacher researcher. That's a term for teachers that do research.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily that you publish, but that's if you do research. For example, I know that you collect interviews and then you work with the interviews, and I'm actually very interested to know how you work with the interviews and how you work with the data. I can help you with the ethical considerations and everything like that if you want. Um, and then you can actually publish, and then you are a teacher researcher, the teacher that has practice, but then at the same time they research the topic, they study a lot about the topic, and then they come up with some theories or methodologies or approaches, new tools, something like that. So, and this is a very interesting intersection of just teaching and being a researcher, because I'm not a teacher researcher. I don't like methodology, teaching methodology. That's not my thing. So I like discourse. I like how meaning is created on different levels, how, different things contribute to meaning creation. That's what I like because it's multifaceted and it's so diverse. So that's something I like. And I incorporate it in my teaching, but I don't do teaching methodology. So I don't do individual differences. For example, I don't do motivation research, even though those are very, 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 very good, very, let's say, distinguishable fields in Hungary, because I have one of the professors. She is the leading person in the industry of second language motivation research. So, and when you write like second language motivation research, she comes up in the Google. And but I'm not interested in that. So I don't work with her. But she's a statistician. She helps me with the statistical analysis anyway. So yeah, something like that. And if you can publish your research in different journals. That's another thing to publish in a journal, because there is a grading for those journals, and there is a notion that's called predator journals that either ask for money for the publication, which is actually not good. So if you publish for free. It's always for free. And if they ask for money, that's something is shady here. That's not good.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes, yes.
I was pretty convinced that a lot of journals just require money, and this is how
Mm-mm.
it works.
No. If you, for example, like, uh, I don't know if that is in Russia, because I published a couple of articles in Russia. They were for free, but they were very, very low level journals. It's not like something very big. But here, if you'd like to publish, for example, there is like the leading journal in the industry. It's called Multimodal Research. You can publish in it for free if you have a relevant topic, and if you can write a manuscript, then you can publish. There is a certain process that you have to go through, but still no money. That's the most important thing. And there is a grading for the journals Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Q4, those are the very low level journals, and Q1 are the top in the industry. So, for example, multimodal research is the Q1 journal, and it's nearly impossible to publish an article there. And if you publish an article in a Q1 journal, you get respect. So you're like, oh, so you have a paper in the Q1 journal. That's very good. And for example, for teachers in the university, for professors, and for the staff, for the permanent staff, they have to publish at least 3 articles a year alongside teaching, which is also very difficult because you would like during the master, like for example, in a bachelor degree group, you would have like 17 people. In the master's degree, you would have up to 15 people. In the PhD group, you will have up to 8 people. And then just imagine all of them wrote a paper, and this is the end of the semester, and you have to check all of them and give comments for all of them. Of course, during the bachelor degree, they don't write a lot, and then they don't write papers, and like their thesis is about 20 pages, which is just a literature review, so nothing fancy. But for the masters, we would write 40 pages at least, and then they would all check. They would have 3 master degree students, and then they would have to check all of the works, and then they also have different classes to teach and check. So it's a lot of work and little money.
Yeah, so I was like, that's pretty interesting to try myself one day and teach at the university. But now, hearing all that, I'm not so
Yeah, it
brave.
is. But I don't think that's the prerequisite for teaching in Russian university. You don't have to publish anything if you teach in a Russian university, I think.
Yeah, I'm not interested in teaching in Russian university, to be
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, and usually, so all the people I know who teach in university, they all have like a PhD degree at least.
Yeah.
After the PhD, you can habilitate, which means you go further,
Mm,
and then you can get the habilitation, which is another like long life commitment, let's say.
mm, okay. I'm not really into this stuff so
Mm-hmm.
far, but yeah. I
But
mean,
you tried to apply for the masters.
I applied for two German universities,
Mm-hmm.
I think. The first one, which I applied for in January, I got rejected
Mm-hmm.
because of my subjects. Like I didn't have enough credits for this major.
Mm-hmm.
And this was quite surprising for me because okay, I graduated the pedagogical university, so the majority of my subjects are like about teaching, the psychology, stuff like that. And I was trying to get into some linguistics field. I don't remember actually the name of the program, what I was applying for. But they just told me like you don't have enough credits for this, and that. So unfortunately, we can't get you. Yeah, and it was quite a story because maybe you remember like 2020, 2021, I applied for the British universities.
Yes.
Remember that? And I
Mm-hmm.
got accepted into Bristol. I got the
Mm-hmm.
offer, just I couldn't go because it was really expensive. I didn't have
Yeah, yeah.
scholarships. And I just sent them all the documents that I had at the time, just my diploma, which was translated, and it was okay. It was enough. But Germany, I think they are a little more demanding in terms of the documents.
Yeah, it also depends on the university, but I think in Germany they are more. Mm, let me think.
Paper people,
What?
papers people,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, 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 yeah. But I think it's more about the criteria. So their criteria is more rigid, are more rigid.
yeah. And I guess it also, the reason is that they give you almost like the education is almost free
Mm-hmm.
because you have to just pay like 300 euro or
Yes.
something per semester, and it's
Mm-hmm.
basically nothing. And so the thing was, I needed to show them which, like one credit, how many hours like it corresponds. Because
Mm-hmm.
in my diploma, in my on my paper, Russian paper, there
Mm-hmm.
is no information about that. And like you can Google and you can see that one credit is about 30 hours in
Mm-hmm.
Russian system, but you need to prove it with like an official document. And I
Mm.
just sent the email to my university. And first of all, I called. They gave me another number. I called another number.
Mm-hmm.
Then the woman told me, like, okay, just write the email, ask for whatever you need, and we will try to do our best. Okay, I sent them the email. They told me, like, okay, we can do it. And I got the email on the day of the deadline for this
Mm.
application. And I needed to translate it within like maybe 1 or 2 hours. So it
Mm-hmm.
was this craziness you can imagine. I
Yes.
was also working at that day, and I got this email with my credit transcript.
Mm-hmm.
I just sent it to the translator. She translated it. We were a little bit late. I sent it to the woman who was just talking with me about this stuff from Germany, and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, I will just send it over to my colleagues. The commission, like admission meeting is over, but I will just do it." She did it. I was like, "Okay." I met the deadline. It was super
Mm-hmm.
stressful, and then I got rejected.
Mm.
Okay,
I
but
see.
now I've got this paper, so not bad. I
Yeah, 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 yeah. At least you have this paper, yes. Um, Yeah, I mean, those criteria are made specifically for you and for the university. So when you come to the university, you have some prior knowledge and you can actually study. So because
Mhm.
it will be very difficult for you if you get into the program and the program is something that you haven't heard of or you haven't, and it might be heavily dependent on this and you just haven't had it in your life. That's very, very difficult. So they would just, it's safety issues for the university and for you as well.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I believe in myself that I can do it. I'm so
Yes,
curious, but they need the proof. Like they need the evidence that I'm actually capable of that.
yes,
I
yes.
get it. Yeah, I get it. There was something else I wanted to
Are
say.
you applying to something else? Because you said, or maybe I just heard it that you applied for something different.
Yeah, I applied for like teaching,
Mm-hmm.
major in teaching and minor something else, some English or American studies, something. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. So I
Oh, you
think
can.
that
Uh-huh.
here I just have more chances because of
Mm-hmm. You don't want to have a bachelor's degree.
one more.
Bachelor degree is just 3 years here, which is just 1 year more than the master's.
I don't know.
Because, for example, for your credits, you can get into the bachelor degree, but you cannot get into the master's degree because you don't have enough credits. But for example, for the bachelor degree, that's enough. And just not 2 years, but three.
Hmm.
That's still good.
Yeah, just the idea of going back, like I've already got my bachelor and
It's not going back. It's the thing is that you will learn the stuff that you didn't know and that you were not taught in a Russian university. That's
I
another
mean,
thing.
of course, totally.
And the bachelor degree is it's completely different from what we have in Russia. It's just it's different.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Just I don't know.
And it's actually less demanding, by the way. So you will not have to write 40 pages. Like, you don't have to write a thesis for 40, 50 pages. I think for my bachelor's degree, the minimum was 55 pages. I wrote 56.
Mm.
So, and yeah, And here, the minimum for the master thesis was 40.
Mm.
And for the bachelor degree in our university, people have to write just 20 pages of literature review, and that's it.
Mm. Okay, I'll give it a thought.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not sure that.
it's very good, very good. And after that, you can apply for the masters. And especially, in Germany, people study for their whole life.
Mm.
It's okay. Like in Germany, I know that it's okay for people to be like 45 and then study at master's level, or being like 70 and then starting at university, because because the education is very not acceptable, but accessible in the country. And then I think
Mhm.
doing bachelor degree and earning a bachelor degree in a German university is very good. And then you can decide whether you would like to go and, teach, you would like to go and get a master's degree. But it's if someone suggested me to go to get a bachelor degree, I think I would say yes, because I know for me it will be less difficult, less stressful. One thing here to consider is that for example, during my master's, during the PhD level, we only have 3 classes on Thursday. The rest of the week is free. But it's not free, you do the research, and you do the research yourself. During the master's degree, we had Tuesday, Thursday, or like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. On the, like a bachelor degree requires you to have 3 to 4 classes every day. So
Well,
that's a difficult
yeah, which
thing.
makes sense. I mean, because this is your first step, like in this academic field. Yeah, so it's also like thing to consider because I have some other things to do in my life.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
But if you would like to, to write a paper or do something, and I have a practicing teacher, for example, you, I can still benefit from this, and you can still benefit from my knowledge of the genre and of writing the papers. So
yeah.
if you like, we can do something together. I can help you with the data analysis, because, for example, to ensure the validity of the research, you will have to, for example, there are 2 things you can do. First is the intra-rater reliability check or inter-rater reliability check. If you have an intra reliability check, it means that you first analyze your data and then you put it aside for 1 month or 2 months or even 3, and then you come up after 3 months and then you check it again. And then if the findings are similar, it's reliable. So the research is very good in one of the aspects. So, and then there is inter-rater reliability. It means that you teach a person to do the same thing as you did, and the second person checks 20% of your work of the data. And then if you match in the results, then it's reliable. So you can do this. And I can help you with this, for example,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I actually think that I can write no, I don't think I can write in Russian. I mean,
No, 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 no.
yeah.
I mean, I would be more interested in writing in English, of course,
Yeah.
because I mean, it makes more sense. And I actually got into like back to school here in Yekaterinburg because of
Hmm.
my interest in writing something. Because it's been a while, like since my bachelor's, and I'm not in the field, I'm not in the industry, I don't know how it works. And I got into this like qualification program, whatever, like what it's called, I'm not
Hmm.
sure, to become a translator here in
Hmm.
school. And I'm not quite happy with what I get there.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah. But I'm gonna write a kind of a research. It's just 25 pages. It's like
Hmm.
nothing, but it's just something interesting that I want to dive into. And
Hmm.
yeah, like, but I was also planning to write something with my professor, one of the
Hmm.
professors at the university. I just couldn't make it in terms of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm still like eager to pursue this
Mm-hmm.
thing. So yeah, I would be happy to do something like that in English with a person who knows the thing. Like, because
Okay.
I'm actually really like behind in terms of how everything works, how to do the research correctly, and how to
Mm-hmm.
write it, and to analyze it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, sure.
yeah. Here we go. The podcast was to make this uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
deal at the
Collaboration.
end.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Okay, I think we can wrap it up, I
Yeah.
guess. So thank you for telling about your experience. It was
Thank you very
super
much. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, and
Thank you for inviting me.
yeah, always. It's always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Maybe it's not the last time, I guess.
Oh, yes, that would be great.
Yeah, and maybe we're gonna explore some other topics on teaching, learning, I don't know, academic background, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. See you. Have a great week.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.